Welcome into the Kansas City Chiefs Report. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. We are 5 days away from the AFC Championship Game between the Chiefs and the Bengals. We'll continue to have news, rumors, and updates between now and then, including a live show on Wednesday. So subscribe and join us for that. Let's get into some injury stuff around this team as we get closer and closer to this weekend's game. Bob Frescoe of Sports Radio 610 in Kansas City tweeted this out earlier today. Per a source, the Chiefs are expecting Rashad Fenton and Tyrann Mathieu to go on Sunday. Hashtag Chiefs Kingdom. Which would be big, right? Because Fenton has missed the last couple of games, and Tyrann Mathieu basically missed the entire Bills game as he left that one early on with a concussion. And let's be frank, the Chiefs secondary got absolutely torched without Fenton and Mathieu against Buffalo. Now, I'm not saying that they would have been able to, contain Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis, and those receivers, but it would have gone a long way and at least given you a chance to slow those guys down, especially late in that game where they had no prayers of getting stopped. So it's a positive sign to potentially get those guys back. We'll talk about each one individually in just a moment. But first, who do you think is the bigger need? What's the bigger positive if just maybe one of these guys were to return? Is it Tyrann Mathieu or is it Rashad Fenton? I might actually go Fenton, which is kind of crazy to say, but type TM for Tyrann Mathieu, type RF for Rashad Fenton, and let us know down in the comments. Let's talk about Honey Badger first here. Again, he left that game against the Bills with a concussion, did not return, but they are optimistic that he will play on Sunday. It came out earlier today that he's feeling good, although he is still in the concussion protocol. It takes a few days to clear. If you remember, Mahomes last year before the AFC Championship game was in concussion protocol, and was able to clear by Friday. We'll see if that's the case this time around with Mathieu. And look, the Chiefs missed Honey Badger in this game. And I will say, Tyrann Mathieu, especially in the second half of the season, has not been great. But Kansas City still needs him. He's a vocal leader. He's much better than Dan Sorensen. We all know that. And they need his presence out there. He helps get things lined up, especially in the secondary. Hasn't had the best year of his career by any means, but he's still an emotional leader for this football team. He's still a good player. We'll see what his future holds as he is going to be a free agent after this year. But I don't think there's any doubt that they felt his absence against Buffalo this past week. And I'll tell you this, too. You can't have Dan Sorensen in deep coverage anymore. If for some reason Honey Badger can't play, you may have to go Armani Watts on the back end. Sorensen is just so bad in coverage at this point in his career. So for that reason alone, it would be a huge positive if Tyrann Mathieu was able to return in the AFC Championship game, because we all remember what happened against Joe Burrow just a few weeks ago. Subscribe to the channel, get more Chiefs news, rumors, injury updates throughout the rest of the postseason. And then, of course, in the offseason, we will have you guys covered with some draft free agency coverage as well. So don't miss any of that. Hit that big red button and subscribe. More videos to come here on the Chiefs Report. Let's talk a little bit more about Rashad Fenton, who's missed the past couple of games in a weird way because he was completely healthy. And then during warm-ups of the wild card game, just hours before kickoff, his back locks up on him, and he hasn't been able to play since. Now, again, sounds like they're optimistic that he will be able to play on Sunday, and that would be big because Mike Hughes is cheeks, in the words of Micro Mike. His hip is still on the turf at Arrowhead Stadium after what Gabriel Davis did to him. I mean, I felt the pain in my left hip after that little, what do you call that route, Marsh, when the little skinny post there, little zig route, whatever you want to call it. All I know is that Mike Hughes got absolutely embarrassed on that one, as did the entire Chiefs secondary by Gabriel Davis. If Gabriel Davis is going to go for 8 and 200 with 4 touchdowns on you, what are these Bengals receivers going to do? We saw Jamar Chase go for 225 back in Week 17. Joe Burrow is going to test this secondary. You can bet your ass on that one. So you get Mathieu back, you get Fenton back. If they can go, that's a big lift, but it's still going to be a challenge. So if either of those guys are out, it gets that much tougher because Cincinnati will pick on Mike Hughes. I can promise you that. Do you trust this Chiefs secondary, even if it's fully healthy? I want to ask you guys on this one. Type Y for yes, type in for no. Do you trust the Kansas City Chiefs secondary right now? Today's show is sponsored by BetUS. Your boy had a 4-0 weekend during the divisional round, made a bunch of money, planning to do so this weekend as well. Go to chatsports.com/ChiefsBet. That'll redirect you to the BetUS website, and then you can plug in promo code Chiefs125 to get a 125% deposit bonus. Put down $100, you get $125 for free, some extra money to play with. You can also go bet on the NBA and other sports. But this game in particular, the Chiefs sit as a 7-point favorite right now. The over-under set at 54.5, which, by the way, that number has risen 3 points since the opening odds of 51.5. So Vegas getting some money on the over early on here. Go make some money with BetUS, chatsports.com/ChiefsBet, promo code Chiefs125 to get that deposit bonus. Okay, let's keep it moving here. Let's talk a little offseason rumor. JuJu Smith-Schuster, could he be coming to Kansas City this offseason? A lot of you guys are probably saying, wait a minute, this is deja vu. Because if you remember, last offseason, the Chiefs pushed for Smith-Schuster, offered him a deal, and he opted to go play with Big Ben for some reason. And, well, look where that got him, as he was not productive this year. That's mostly because he was injured, but still, I think he would have been better off with Mahomes and this offense. New report surfacing that Smith-Schuster interested in signing with the Chiefs this offseason. And hey, maybe they can get back to the table once the playoffs are over for Kansas City and free agency gets underway, and they can work something out. I would certainly take JuJu Smith-Schuster for the right price. Last year, he made about $8 million. I wonder if you could get him for a little cheaper since he was not productive this year. You look at his stats by year since he entered the league. This is his worst year yet. Now, that's due to health. He only played in 5 games. But even in 5 games, only 15 catches for 129 yards. Sure, he's playing with Big Ben, who his arm was shot at this point, and other players had emerged there. But it's been a while since he had that 1,400-yard season back in 2018. Was still good in 2020, of course. And I still think is, kind of a middle-of-the-pack number 2 receiver type, which would be valuable for this team because that's something we've talked about for a year now, that this team doesn't really have a true number 2 receiver. The reported offer from last year was 1 year, $8 million, with $3 million in incentives. Part of the reason he chose Pittsburgh is that I think all $8 million was guaranteed, but still, I would have taken my chances with Kansas City. He obviously did not do that. Maybe, just maybe, this time around, the Chiefs and Smith-Schuster can agree to a deal. Should the Chiefs sign him? What do you guys think? You interested in JuJu Smith-Schuster? Type S if you are, if you want them to sign him. Type P for pass if you're not interested in the Steelers free agent to be a wide receiver. What you think? I want to know from you guys right now. Real quick before we sign off, Josh Gordon, who was released on Monday to clear a roster spot for Kalen Saunders, who returned from IR, has cleared waivers officially and has re-signed with the practice squad, which I like to see. I think Josh Gordon has approached this season with a good attitude and a good work ethic. The Chiefs like him. Andy Reid has spoken glowingly about how he's just put his head down and worked multiple times during the season. I would like to see him return next year. I would like to see them bring him back on a 1-year deal, get a full offseason of reps with Mahomes, run some routes with the other receivers, get into training camp, get some, consistent reps, because you sign in the middle of the year. For those of you who don't know, teams, yes, they practice, but they kind of don't. I mean, they're running around for the most part in T-shirt, shorts, and a helmet. Like, they only have, 8 to 10 padded practices during the actual season. So how much valuable reps did Gordon actually get once he signed back in, week 4 or 5 or whatever it was? Would like to see him return. Glad to see him back on the practice squad. And maybe with the full offseason of reps with Mahomes and some of the other guys, he can be a piece on next year's team. All right, before we sign off, predict the score, Bengals, Chiefs. I'll be asking you guys this one all week long. Let us know what your score predictions are. Of course, indicate who's going to win. For example, type Chiefs win 28-20 or whatever it is. I predicted 37-28 Chiefs win and advance to Super Bowl 56.